All right, and definitely no camera today. There are some things you should never see. Let's look at these problems. I had to make up a problem for you because the answers on the other one are very similar, but the ideas are all the same. So the first thing is that you're asked to state the values of these two drawn functions. You have two drawn functions at particular points. I just picked 2 and 6 kind of randomly. And then I made some of the other questions pretty similar. So to go to that first one, if I want to find f at 2, what you have to remember is it's the y values. I've plugged in 2 and I want to find the y value. So I go to x equals 2, I go up to the curve, I go over to the y value, I kind of estimated it around 1/3. Your numbers are much nicer, and so you won't have the issue of trying to figure out what this is exactly equal to. So f of 2 equals 1/3. I just kind of estimated it. Yours end up in a corner and you actually know what it is. F at 6, same thing. I would go to x equals 6, go up to the curve, go over to the line, and I get around 1. So g at 6 is 1. How do I know where f of x equals g of x? Well, f of x equals g of x is when the two y values are shared. And so you go and find where the two values or y values are shared. They had already highlighted this with black dots in this picture I found on the internet. I put little gold around them, and we can see that the x values they come from. So now you're given that the y values are equal. The x values look around like x is 4.4, I have 2, and x equals 5.8. I can't recall in your problem if it only crosses once, but you go down and look at the x-axis and look where it intersects, and that will be the x values that that are shared. I'm gonna guess that maybe it's 2 places. I'm not sure. I don't remember at the moment. Next question, how do we estimate the solution for g of x equals 2? So we're given y is equal to 2. So I just draw a line at y equals 2, and it crosses g of x in 2 spots, here and here. And so if I go there and I look at the x values it came from, it turns out to be 3 and 7. I've circled them here. So at x equals 3 and 7, y is equal to 2. So the next question is a little tricky. They ask for the domain and range of f and g. In the picture that was drawn for you in WebAssign, those functions only exist where they're drawn, and I'll explain what that means in a second. That's a bit confusing because here, I know what these functions were. They were supposed to extend, so this is supposed to keep going down to minus infinity, and this is supposed to keep going up till asymptote of 1. And these two are supposed to extend, but I'm going to treat them like the book does, or your WebAssign does. Domain is the maximum possible domain, and it's the answer to the question, what values can x be? What am I allowed x to be? And there's a discrepancy here. When we say what is the domain, we can actually restrict the domain to something. But they're asking for what the maximal possible domain is if they didn't restrict it. So I'm being a little careful here about this, and your instructor may talk to you about this. So what values can x be in f of x? Well, it looks like I have nothing over here on the left side of the graph. So x doesn't look like it can be negative. But it looks like x starts being valid at x equals 0. And if the graph extends, which it should, technically, it's implied here, then it should be okay for all the way up to x's infinity. So from the graph, in that green line, x can be anything from 0 to infinity, and 0 is included here, or actually the way it looks like it's included. If it's not included, it would be an open circle. That's not what they mean on your WebAssign. On your WebAssign, they want you to start where x starts and stop where x stops. So when the picture is not there anymore, that's where x stops. So x is 0 to 7 if I was doing it the way the picture in your WebAssign was done. If you have questions on this and you get it wrong, send me an email, diana.thomas@westpoint.edu. And if you're watching this video, you're a student in the class, in some section, my number is 973-224-2562, and you can send me a text. Just shoot me a text and I'll go over with you what the WebAssign problem, how it's a little different. Same thing for the range. It's the answer to what the y values are, what y values are covered. And if I start just drawing horizontal lines that intersect the graph, all these y values are covered from down here to up here. This lowest point where the graph was -3. And the upper point, see, this is leveling off at 1. It never actually reaches 1. It limits at 1. Is not, so 1 itself is not included. So all y values between -3 and 1 would be included, with 1 as an open bracket to indicate 1 is not part of that. What is the domain for a g of x? According to your WebAssign, it would be where the graph starts, which is 2, and where the graph ends, which is 7. So 2 to 7, that's your domain. Your range, what would be the y values that are covered? Everything from 0 to 3 is covered. If I just drew horizontal lines, it attacks the y-axis from 0 to 3. That's where the blue graph starts and ends.